I don't believe that the men are gatekeeping against the women anymore. I think the
Yeah.
women have been told this story for so long.
It's on a loop.
A guy is raised, walk forward in a straight line towards your goal. Do not allow anything to come between you and your goal. Your job is to get there as quickly as possible. That is a leader, son, right? Women are told there's no I in team. You're here for your family. Like,
Mhm.
this is like you're the nurturer. So this is a woman, if she's walking in a direct path to her goal, she hears the guy coming behind her. He's moving quickly, obviously. And the woman is going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Please go ahead and pass since you're going
Yeah.
at a different pace than I
Oh, and can I
am.
get you coffee along the
Right. On
way?
the way. Right. Like, or a drink or whatever.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Wealth Within Us. Today, I'm fortunate to have with me Halle Eavelyn. She has been featured in Time, USA Today, and Good Morning America, among many other things. She is a transformational wealth coach, author, speaker, and tour leader who helps women clear money blocks, which I think we all need, and step into aligned financial power. She guides high-achieving women own their voices and clear even lifelong issues using wealth. So I'm your girl, Halle, including thorough, including through emerging paths like crypto and AI-driven opportunities. Well, I'm super happy to have this conversation with you and get to know you a little better, and share all of your past experiences and how did you get here? Because I think this is something that in this time, women especially really are looking for. And with many more women, I feel being single or wanting to have their own money, their own investments, whether they're with someone or not, it's something we're all, including myself, looking for.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question that started a very long time ago. So I'm going to go back to the beginning if it's okay. And I'm going to
Absolutely.
share like my origin story because I think it really helps to kind of like, it kind of helps to explain like who I am
Mhm.
today. But then I'll touch on another part of it that explains why I do this through wealth. Is that okay?
Absolutely. I'm anxious to hear your story.
Okay, great. So it all began on my 10th birthday. And I know we have some extra time in this podcast. I do like 10-minute podcasts or 20 minutes. I know we're going to have like a really juicy conversation.
Yes.
So
And so dig in, people. You're going to
yeah,
get a lot out of this.
yeah. So I'm starting back at the beginning. So on my 10th birthday, I was sitting there on the curb outside of my house. And I had this thing where I went, oh, I'm going to grow up. Oh, okay. Like I won't be I like it was the first moment that occurred to me, like I will not always be a child. And then I was like, oh, and that means I'm going to grow old and that means I'm going to die. Okay, then what happens? So I go inside and I said to my dad, Daddy, where do you go when you die? And he looks very seriously at me. And now I want to set this I want to set this up properly. My father's a very loving person. He's a
Mhm.
very intelligent man. He's one of my best friends in all the land,
Oh,
but he's a very intelligent man. And he knew that I was I'll call it like emotionally mature.
hmm
So he knew I could take it, right? He's
Yeah.
like giving me college textbooks at that
He's
age.
like
And
ready to give you the truth.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And he literally said to me in that moment, I want to tell you the truth. I don't want to lie to you the way my parents lied to me.
Mm.
You go in the ground and the worms eat you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, that's it. And I'm like, but I won't be me anymore. And he's like, mm-hmm. And that's how it is. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay. So after that, I started having secret panic attacks in the middle of the night. I would wake
Okay.
up and I would be in the dark. And I mean, in those days, there were no electronics in the room. Like I think we even
Yeah.
had like
Yeah.
remember the lights that like I mean the clocks that like the time flipped over using like a little
Oh, yes.
clock.
Yes. I think
Right.
we're from
So
a similar generation.
yes, Gen X baby.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
So nothing, like the room is pitch, right? And I would wake up and I would go, oh, this is what it's going to be like to not be me anymore. And
Mm.
then I would like have this huge panic attack and I would turn on the lights and run around the room until like I calmed myself down. This went on until I was like in my late 20s.
Oh, wow.
And
So you're talking, this is when you were 10. So this is
yeah,
10 years.
like almost 20 years actually. So
Okay.
it was terrifying. And it was my secret shame. Like I never told
Mm.
anybody about this. I don't think I even told my partner. I was just like, okay. And I just can't like deal with this.
Don't
But
mind when I get up running around. It's all good.
no, no, okay. So this only happened when I was alone. Like if
Oh,
somebody
okay.
else was
Okay.
there. So I actually also, I never said this out loud, but I always tried to never be alone. That was
Mm.
another thing. That was a really big deal for me.
Okay.
And
So that would be like, it was it was like comforting to you then to have someone else there
other human
take
beings were
away. Yeah.
absolutely, yes, they could help me because they could like help me from the outside,
Hmm.
distract me from the,
The
from
racing thoughts.
exactly, exactly. So when I was in my late 20s, I was running a business, my first company with my partner. He came to me and he goes, listen, I've joined this group and we're going to Egypt and you should come. And I'm like, 100-hour weeks, eating McDonald's, sleeping on the sofa. I was in the software industry at the time,
Okay.
or 2 weeks touring the Egypt on a cruise ship. Like,
Hmm.
which should I pick? Anyway, so I went to Egypt, and I would like to say that my spiritual awakening happened on, in the king's chamber of the Great
Hmm.
Pyramid. I would like to say that, but it did not.
That's
On
okay.
the cruise ship, in the dining room, during dinner, in front of 100 people, I was working with this woman who I had met on the ship. And, I was exploring my spirituality, but I like had no religion. You could not logic me into God. It was like this really like difficult
How
thing
old were
where
you at this time? How
like
old were you?
mid to late 20s,
Okay.
right? So like 27 years old. And all of a sudden, I have this. Actually, no, I just did the math. I was 31. I always get this
Okay.
mixed up, but like, okay, so early 30s. But I had this moment where she said to me, you're afraid of something. And I was like, no, I'm not afraid of anything. Don't be ridiculous. Like, I run my own business and I'm like one of five
You're
women
doing
in
all
the
the things.
entire industry. It's totally fine. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, and she goes, are you sure? And I was like, there's like a little fear of death, maybe. Okay. So she grabs my hands across the table and she starts walking me through this meditation. And I won't describe the whole thing. I wrote my first book was my spiritual travel memoir, Red Goddess Rising, and I talk like in all the details about this and the aftermath of this. But so get it if you want to read it. But I had this moment where in the middle of this meditation, she said, I'm telling you something. And what I heard was, you have a soul and you will never die. But it was like I got it on my cells. Like right now, as I'm telling you, like my whole spine just went with
Yeah.
energy. Like I can still, every time I talk about it, I still talk about it all the time, especially on podcasts and interviews. It, it just was this moment where the energy like came flooding through me. I burst into tears at the table. I have no idea how long it took me to come back from the meditation. I've narrowed it to between like 1 minute and 20 minutes. Like I have no idea.
Wow. That's a pretty big span.
And that it was crazy. And then in this moment, I knew that I was this immortal soul. And so it was like meeting my soul for the first time. Like
Mm,
that's the best way I can describe it.
that's
And
beautiful.
and the reason that I knew that it was real was about 5 minutes later, after I had recovered. My partner was not with me at the time when it happened, but I went to run up the stairs from the dining room to tell him, and I slipped on the stairs. And I was like, what the hell? And I looked down to see what I've slipped on. I slipped in my own shoes. There was water, like just sweat pouring from my hands and feet. Like, okay, we said we were Gen Xers. So did you ever see broadcast news, like that scene with Albert Brooks where he just goes into the flop sweat? Like
Yes.
that was me, but it was isolated to my hands and feet. So I was not
Oh.
sweating. My hair was still fine, but thank goodness. No, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
saying that.
Well, you
But
weren't a crew member
us
at all.
girls, yeah, we're like, let's look good, right? But no, my hands and my feet were absolutely pouring sweat, and because of
Wow.
the energy that had moved through me at that
Yeah,
moment.
it like needed a way to escape
Yes,
and
yes,
take whatever you were releasing with it.
yes. Oh my gosh, nobody's ever said that before. That's so absolutely accurate. Yes. And I know today, I know like all the ways that energy works. And like, I know what you just said is
Mhm.
completely accurate, but I
Yeah.
didn't make that connection at the time because, I was a newbie. It was like I was being
Mhm.
born again in that moment. And it was my awakening. There's no question. So that is what led to everything that I do now. It's what led to my coaching work. It's what led to my ability to create miracles, literal miracles for my clients. And in 2017, so now fast forward like 97, 2007, so 20 years later,
Okay.
I was on my bike and I was just riding my bike. And I had been to my first crypto party in Miami, which was given by, ironically, the guy who was my PR rep back in my first company. He had become like a Bitcoin OG even back then. And he moved to Miami, invited me to his giant party, and I walked in and I was like, oh my God, it's the internet all over again. Like I could tell there was this crazy energy. So a couple days later, I'm like on my bike and I'm just riding, and all of a sudden I was absolutely hit by such a powerful idea that I almost rode my bike like I had to like steer over so I didn't fall over like I
Huh.
was going to ride it up onto the sidewalk. I had a download from what I call like the goddess of crypto.
Oh.
Okay. And what she said was, there's a financial tsunami coming, and you need to teach women how to surf so they don't get knocked over by the wave.
So, and this was 2017. So technically, we had already had a financial crash,
Oh, yeah.
2009,
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
much. So
Yep.
this is, 2009, 8 years after that financial crash. So now it's warning you again, and I think we've kind of been in it. If and I would say it probably started around 21, going into 22.
So I think we're not there yet.
Okay.
I always talk about this quote from, I think it's from For Whom the Bell Tolls. Hemingway created these two characters standing in a room together, and one of them says to the other one, how did you go bankrupt? And the other one says, slowly at first, then suddenly. And I think we're in the slowly part. We
Yes.
haven't gotten to,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
it's not the fall of Rome yet,
Hmm.
but we're getting there. And we can see that from all the things that are going on. Like, for example, last week, uh, the UK came out and said you can no longer withdraw more than £3,000 at the bank during any given transaction.
And just for
This,
reference, we're in September of 2025, because just so
yeah,
people know.
yeah. So they said because of fraud and money laundering, but the truth is they're trying to move us off cash because cash is not traceable and digital currency is. So from a
Or
fraud
programmable.
perspective, say again.
Or programmable.
Well, so that's a whole different rabbit hole we could go down,
Right.
but I will say this, from a fraud perspective, kudos, right? Because we already have this in the United States. Now we're going to have this in the UK, we're going to have this in Canada and Australia and all the British Commonwealth. But from a privacy perspective, the bank is all up in our business. And when I say the bank, I mean like the man, right? Like whoever your
Yeah.
bank is, they now can control your money. You cannot go to a bank and say, give me all my money. They're going to be like, no, come back in a week. If you want to make a crypto transaction, they're going to be like, wait, stop. You might not be allowed to do that. We might not let you. Like, I cannot buy crypto. I bank with Chase. I cannot buy crypto through Chase. It's
Okay.
ridiculous. So the goddess of crypto caused me to go down this path where I was like, let me get as educated as I can about money, the history of money, the current situation with money, digital currency, cryptocurrency. Like, I have been playing very hard in those spaces for like, well, since 2017. So now it's
Yeah.
been
So
like a number of years.
yeah, 2017, we're in 2025. So yeah, 8 years.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't, so I called myself a transformational coach, but I added the wealth part in for two reasons. One is, what the hell is a transformational coach anyway? What am I being transformed from, to? Like, I'm confused. So if you say transformational wealth coach, people are like, oh, you make me get more money, which is, yes, I do.
Yeah, which
That's
is
like,
like, hello.
yeah,
I
that's like
think
the
everybody's
whole
raising their hand.
That's the whole thing. And no matter how much money, like, you could have $1 billion right now, and you could have a money ceiling that says, like, I only deserve this $1 billion, and I will help you lift that money ceiling.
Mm.
Like, that's my
And I think we
work,
all
really.
have a money ceiling, no matter, like you just said, no matter how much money we have, whether it's 1 million or $1,000. I mean, $1,000 is a lot of people's money ceiling, and
Yes.
it is really hard to break through those.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll add something underneath this because I think this is so important. The Dalai Lama said the world will be saved by the Western woman. And
Yeah.
I no longer believe that he meant Western women. I think he meant actual you, actual me, actual you. If you're listening or watching this
Mhm.
podcast, there is a call to action for all of us. And I know a lot of women that are hearing that call, and their question is, how do I answer it? And the answer is with wealth. Wealth is power in the society that we live in. When you have wealth, you have time freedom, you have money freedom, you have energy freedom. When you're not thinking about, how do I pay for my groceries? How am I going to pay for my kids' school? How do I pay for this education? When you stop thinking about that, it's like you free up your mind. We
Oh
can't.
my gosh. Yeah. To create all of this stuff is blocking all these things that you said, this worry, it's blocking us to create.
Yes. So I have this thing, I call it the Renaissance theory.
Mhm.
So go back to the Renaissance, right? Imagine that, Da Vinci is painting, or Michelangelo is painting or sculpting. And there's this moment of, what color am I going to paint Joseph's coat? Ooh, lapis lazuli blue, made from actual ground lapis. Nope, sorry, can't afford it. Let me go ahead and make Joseph's coat brown. Like, the Renaissance wouldn't have happened except for the patrons. The patrons paid the money. They were the wealthy ones.
Mhm.
And they made sure that Da Vinci could wave his, hand and go, 5 tubes of lapis lazuli blue. Thank you very much. And there's somebody out there grinding all that lapis lazuli up. So his painting resonates 500, 600 years
Yeah.
later. That's a big deal, right?
I never looked at it from that angle. I love that.
Yeah. So what if we were all like, we women especially, we have been brought into this world where there's no I in team. We're supposed to be the woman behind the man. We're not supposed to have, still, very much of our own ideas, our own money. I know so many women who say, oh, I'm bad with money and I never learned. Like, it was taught in school and somebody missed it. And I've asked men, like, okay, where did you learn about money? Because it was not taught in school, right? Like,
No,
let's
no, it was
establish
not. It
that.
wasn't where I went to school, and I went
Not
to a pretty good
anywhere.
school.
Not
So
anywhere. Not anywhere. So,
I don't think it still is. It
it
still
isn't.
isn't. So to
It
this
isn't.
day.
Yeah. Okay. So there are improvements. There are classes you can take, books you can read, like my first financial book from, like, I'm 6 years old or whatever. But the parents have to give it to the kids, and they have to be willing to
Yeah,
educate the
it's
kids.
more on the parents than the education system, which that's a whole other rabbit hole.
Yes, it certainly is. Yeah. Which I'm guessing we'd be on the same page about. But
Probably.
So you look at what's going on right now, and there is this, we are making some inroads, but they're very slow. And
Mhm.
well, I'll give you an example. When I was running my first business, we'd have a venture capital company come sniffing around every week. Now, I would have sold out to venture capital money because I was like, I would like my $1 million, please, and thank you. My partner was like, no, we're creating art. I want to be here when I'm old and gray. And so we used to have this art versus commerce fight all the
Mm.
time. And he was the CEO and I was the president of the company. So I lost that battle because he could trump me, from like a business standpoint. And it was too bad because really he didn't understand about the life cycle of business. I had an intuitive hit about the life cycle of business. We would have been millionaires and instead we round tripped. That was like the first bad investment was we round tripped in that company.
Okay.
But every week a venture capital company would show up and just want to throw money at us because it was the dot-com boom days.
Yes.
And what I learned was that only 1% of women were getting funded at the time.
That's actually still true. There's a little documentary out now about that exact issue.
And so now you know what the number is. What's the number today?
I think it's still only it's under 10%. It's very low.
3%. It's
It's very
3%.
low. And and
If
and how do you feel so like outside of the venture capital, how do you feel that do you think it's still men that are if a man is in charge of a company, say, even if it's an entrepreneur, do they still have an advantage? And do you feel that women can really only gain that advantage when we're at the top or we're the owner? Like, does that make sense what I'm asking?
I don't know exactly how to answer your question because I don't think I have that, like, there's no statistic that answers that question. So
Right.
I'd be
Yeah.
guessing
I'm
from,
sure there isn't the one that exists. And I mean, maybe it's just like, what's the general vibe that you get in business today, whether it being a large corporation? And I would say more, do you feel like more entrepreneurs, women have more of a say when it comes down to smaller companies?
I mean, there are now women CEOs more prevalently than there were then.
Yes.
Although you get that, like, that woman from Thanos, for example, or,
Yes.
the woman who was co-leading WeWork, those women are setting back women in business
Right.
by, years, if not decades, by their, irresponsible actions.
Exactly. And
So
of course, those are the ones that are put in the media as well.
Yeah, but honestly, there are good women being put in the media also, like I can't remember her name right now, but the woman who founded Spanx, for
Oh,
example,
yeah. Yes.
or you look at the Jessica Albas and the Gwyneth
And the
Paltrows of
Skinny
the
Girl
world. And
brand, I think some of those brands,
yeah, Skinny Girl is,
like the
uh,
drinks and the
yeah, I'm trying to remember.
mixes.
I'm trying to remember her name, but like she came out of like acting, and then she was a talk show host, and then she moved into that space, and so that was really great. There are women inventing things all over the place, but we're seeing something that we weren't seeing before. I've seen this on Facebook. Like, if you were to look at my Facebook feed, you probably see me post about this once a day at least. There are stories now about the women who invented things that were then handed off to the men to take credit for. So women in astronomy, women in
Mm,
STEM, right? Women in STEM when STEM wasn't a thing, right? We
right.
didn't even talk about it. I mean, there wasn't really technology, but like the first computer programmer was a woman, right? Her name was Ada Lovelace, and she was Henry Lord Byron's daughter, and she created a computing system that was the first time there was like an adding machine type of device. And she said, "Oh, if we do this and this, like the adding system will figure it out for us." It was the first example of computing, and so that was Ada Lovelace. Like, if you look at the the crypto Cardano, the company Cardano. The crypto was called ADA. It's
Mhm.
Ada. It's named after her because she was the world's first computer programmer.
Oh,
But
okay.
women's inventions in like Hedy Lamarr, the actress, right? Wi-Fi, invented Wi-Fi and patented it, did all this other stuff. People didn't want to know that. They wanted to know, oh, Hedy Lamarr is this like gorgeous thing and she's an actress, but
Yes.
she was a brilliant mind. We see that women invented the dishwasher, that women invented um, there were women composers. Like I just have started learning about Fanny Mendelssohn. The composer Mendelssohn had a
Mhm.
sister. Her name was Fanny. She apparently was maybe more brilliant than her brother. There is evidence that he stole some of his compositions are actually Fanny's compositions, but she wasn't allowed to publish them under her own name. There's a
Yeah.
lot of women weren't allowed to publish stuff in their own name. So we're starting to see a legacy of I used to say, I don't know why, but unless a woman was a queen, and there were only like three of them, like Queen Elizabeth I and Cleopatra, Queen Elizabeth I, Queen Victoria, like three women out of history. Yay. But like, oh, everybody else must have been busy with the babies and the home life. No, they were all defying society, and then men were writing the history. And it was like leaving the women out of it
Yeah.
entirely. If you ever get a chance to see the movie Agora, have you seen that?
I do not think so. Agora. Okay.
It's a Rachel Wise movie, and it's about. It was directed by Darren Aronofsky, who tends to take on like this really like deep work.
Hmm.
But it's about the teacher and brilliant scientist Hypatia, who lived in ancient Rome, and
Oh, I have not seen
eventually
this.
it's a really amazing movie, but eventually a Christian mob came in to the agora, the amphitheater where she was teaching, took her physically out of the room in front of all of her students, like just like in a very violent way, raped her, murdered her, chopped up her body in little pieces, and then used oyster shells to scrape the flesh from her bones.
Oh,
Now, if you, but it's disgusting. But if you think about it, imagine being so afraid of a woman with knowledge that you had to go that last step. Like she's dismembered everywhere, and now you're scraping the flesh off of her bones, which could not have been easy. It's a freaking oyster shell. It'll cut
no.
your hands, right?
Where do you think the root of it is? I mean, and it kind of has been the age old thing, this sort of men versus women, when the truth is humanity can't exist without it.
Yeah, no kidding.
So it's
No
like,
kidding.
where did this ultimate fear of women come in to men? I do believe there was a time when there was much more women. And look at the Indian culture, like the women are much regarded as,
Revered.
especially as they age,
Yes.
their
Yeah.
wisdom. So it sometimes is like you have to think of, well, where did it all start?
Well, I'll speak to the native culture for 1 minute just to say we had a turning point moment in history.
Mm.
We could have come here to America, found the native population, and gone, these people really know how to live. They live in harmony with the land.
Yes.
They respect their women. They
Many
live.
parts of the Constitution were taken from some of those values, but they left
Yeah.
the women out. I mean,
And also they left out a lot of humanity. Like I just
right.
learned a couple of um here, another beautiful woman. I learned a couple of weeks ago about this horrific bison slaughter where they literally slaughtered millions of bison across the plains. So imagine just herds and herds and herds of bison roaming free. And in order to feed the trade in bison meat and bison hides, just going along and just I want to say decimating, but that actually means only 10% were killed, just destroying the bison
Wow.
population. And a woman came along, a woman whose husband was a trapper, and she saw these baby bison out on the plains lying next to their dead mothers
Like heartbreaking.
and realized that they could still live, took these bison in, bottle fed them, saved the herd from extinction. And today, the bison that roam are the descendants of these bison that she corralled and kept safe from the slaughter. Another
And when
woman
you drive out
showing.
west, that's incredible. And when you drive out west, you can see them.
Yeah.
The
But
wild bison.
imagine,
Yeah. That's
millions
incredible. I
of
hadn't
them.
heard that story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like it just the stories are there, but they're hidden underneath. So I want to answer your real question. But so that turning point in society could have been that we came along and said, "Oh, let us embrace our women. Let us embrace our elders. Let us respect this like Manhattan was sold for the equivalent of $34. Now, this was like, I think I learned about this in the 90s. So let's say that would have been, I don't know, $300. We've had this is a whole nother rabbit hole, but the inflation that we've
Yes.
had has been like, we've basically been lied to about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've lost 95% of the value of our money between 1905 and 1990, and another 95%. We've lost another 95% of the value since 1995. So when you look at your 25-cent sandwich and you go, why does this cost $20? That is why.
And they're about to
So,
devalue it even more.
oh yeah, we're going to start. The money printers are about to be turned on
Oh,
September
yeah.
25. Yes, there will be a rate cut.
Like they
And
say,
after
interest
that,
rates lowering is really great, but it's really not for the economy in a lot
yeah,
of ways. It just devalues the dollar even more.
that's a whole, yes. So, okay. I think there were a couple of inciting moments for women that happened around the fourth century AD. And I'll talk about those in a minute. But I
Okay.
think that you said there was a time that women were more like in charge.
Or
We
at least
were
equal.
we were a matrilineal society in ancient times. The
Mm-hmm.
matrilineal society means that the birthright passes from mother to daughter. Now, that to me is the only logical way to do it. By the
Right.
time we got done with that and started moving toward the patriarchal and patrilineal way of descendancy, I guarantee you that a couple of babies have been born into the lineage of kings that were actually the lineage of the local stable boy because the king couldn't get it up or the king couldn't get her pregnant or whatever. And she could lose her head if she didn't have the baby, right? And
Yeah.
because in those days, they believed the sex of the child was determined by the woman. That if the woman couldn't get pregnant, it was clearly her fault. Get another girl, right? So
Yes. Ironically, the plot of Handmaid's Tale.
yeah, well, and also the plot of Tudor England, right, right there. So,
Yes.
so, so, so that really screwed things up because we went from the matrilineal society where also if a woman gets pregnant, like she's pregnant, you can see it. People are standing around, especially if she's royal, at her birth. You can see the baby coming out. You know that baby came from that woman. With the guy, it's like probably, maybe, who knows, right? You
I know.
can't even tell.
I get people. I think convince us. I can kind of see the similarity.
Right, exactly. Like he has his daddy's nose.
Yeah,
Like, no,
he's got his
that's
cheeks.
yeah, that's the pool boy's nose. Never mind. Anyway, so he got his cheeks. so so look at like that was part of it was we went to a patriarchal society. And in that patriarchal society, we began to say like women have no voice. And ironically, in Islam, women were more revered and women were given more of a voice originally. We'll talk about that in a second. But then we have this two things happen in the fourth century AD. and I want to say I know one of them specifically, but I'm going to butcher the other one. But I'm going to paraphrase it, and I'm going to ask that you guys use AI to correct my error. So the first thing was the Council of there were actually two councils, the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Chalcedon. But one of the things that one of those councils did was to declare Mary Magdalene a whore, right?
Yes.
So the idea, so no one knows who exactly wrote the Bible, except it was written by men and it was not written until hundreds of years after Jesus died. Okay. But
From my understanding, it was written to appease multiple religions to kind of get everybody on board, like the pagans, the Jewish, the Christians, like,
yeah,
let's just throw in a little bit for everybody.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. But prior to that, they had the Gnostic Gospels, and they believed that the Gnostic Gospels, which have been found recently, the Nag Hammadi scrolls.
Yeah, I think the 50s, right? It was found in the 50s.
I don't remember, but it was certainly found in the last century.
Yeah.
So yeah, late last century. So those showed writings that were from the people who were actually there, and they believed that the Bible was like taken from those writings. But there is a Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and a lot of those writings are extant. Like there's whole page. I've read it.
I've read it as well.
Yeah, there's whole pages missing, right? But and there's sections where you're like, it's like your favorite telenovela. Like, what happened there?
Fill in words because it's, a little splotchy.
Yeah, exactly. And in those sections where the pages are missing, it's like, we could really use that information, lady. Yeah. But it was just, physically, like it just deteriorated, and they only have what they have. But you definitely can tell in the Gnostic Gospels that, and in especially the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, that, she was Jesus's partner. She was, and like, let's just, like, to me, the question of whether Mary was Jesus's wife is not a question. All rabbis were married. Jesus would not have been the only exception. Therefore, he had a wife, and therefore the woman that stood next to him 100% of the time was probably his wife. So we're done,
probably had children as well.
Oh, yes, which is why the Da Vinci Code resonated so well with people, because somewhere in our understanding, we know that the bloodline of Jesus and Mary descended through the Merovingian kings. Like, I don't think that's, I don't believe stuff because people tell me. I believe stuff, like I believe that our watchword should be discernment, whether that's
100%. And do your own research. Don't just believe everything everyone says.
That's a crypto thing. We DYOR after everything you say in crypto is do your own research. So I love that you said that. That's perfect. Perfect. So I think that we got into this terrible situation where Mary was suddenly made a whore because it was a way of controlling the women, which by that time, that population and the people, the priests that were running it, were very interested in keeping the women quiet. And it kind of led from there. But the second thing.
Well, and she also, if you read it, you get this whole vibe of she was very spiritual, very in tune, knew how to manifest, knew how to work energy, so to say. She was very in tune with that whole side of things that you really don't hear anything about. Like anything pertaining to any of that is almost completely wiped out of any scripture that's sort of mainstream.
They also say she funded Jesus's crusade, for lack of a better word. Like when Jesus was going around touring, with his disciples and spreading the gospel, it was funded by Mary Magdalene.
And they believe he traveled all over as well, including here in the US. There's a lot of speculation and I guess somewhat proof of that.
So I haven't heard the US, but the lost years, I've definitely heard India and Egypt. And I believe that Mary Magdalene was a priestess of Isis, that she went and studied in the mystery schools of Isis in Egypt. I've been to Egypt over 30 times because of my awakening. I lead tours there regularly. My next tour is a wealth retreat called the Nile Code. We're doing that in April. And it's just, there's some really cool stuff that happens when you get places where the veil is thin, and
Mm,
then you can do like more work. And so I think that Mary Magdalene and Jesus went over there together, and they like that's where they got some of what they got to come back and and preach the gospel, the good news. So in like I think it was the fourth century AD, there was this guy who eventually became a saint, and I don't remember his name right now because I want to stab my eyes out when I think about him. So I think I've like suppressed his name. But he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but pretty closely, accurately, not paraphrasing too much. He said women were basically a complete lie, like a cesspool of evil covered over with this veneer of beauty. Like that was what he said about women. I want to say it was Saint Ignatius. That's just what popped into my head. I will look that up to be certain. But the point is, I remember cesspool of evil, like
was it
covered over.
jealousy?
I think that he probably like I don't know, didn't get breastfed or something, right? Like it was not, but he clearly hated women. And so his work and his canonization came from trying to discredit women like as
Mhm.
a race. Now, let's talk modern times right now.
Mhm.
The Taliban walks into Afghanistan a year ago. Women are dressed like modern women. They're driving, they have cars. And,
Yep.
Saudi women got the right to drive in 2019. So it's not like I'm really far off when I'm talking about like, women have cars and women can drive. Like that's not necessarily usual in other countries. There's like there's still this stigma about women being, well, idiots. But women were working, women were, had lives outside of the house. And the Taliban came in and they were like, nothing will change, and then proceeded to change everything.
Yeah.
And now it's 5 years later, women are in burqas. Women are not allowed to work outside the home. Women are restricted. And the last piece that I heard that just like broke me was women's voices should not be raised in public places.
Wow.
And that means no woman can speak at an assembly. No woman has the right to get out and do what in London is normal. You can go down to Hyde Park, you can go to Speaker's Corner, you can get up on one of their
Mhm.
soapboxes and you
Yeah.
can say whatever the hell you want, and people will listen or not listen to you. But they're there, they're speaking, and they have the right to speak. Women do not have that right with the Taliban. And so it's been this absolute like shutting down of women's voices. Now, I'm going to bring up something really ugly for a second, but a couple of days ago, there was this right wing guy, Charlie Kirk, who was murdered while he was in the middle of this big assembly in Utah. And I'm pretty sure it was a contract hit because
Yeah,
it
I
was
would agree with that.
2 football fields away. Like you got to be some kind of marksman to hit somebody that far away. Even the video that I saw, it's like there's some guy like way, 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 way down there, and all of a sudden he goes
Yeah.
like this, and you're like, what's going? Like you can't even see because it's that far away, and the gun was further than much further away than that. But we killed this man because we didn't agree with him,
Yeah.
which will martyr him, especially with the right wing. We are always trying to silence the voices that we don't like.
Yeah.
And by we, I mean men, the patriarchy of
Yeah.
men.
Whoever the they are.
Exactly.
No,
Exactly.
I agree. And it's like if you can't it doesn't I don't have to agree or whatever. It doesn't matter if I agree or disagree with what you're saying. The point is that you have a right to say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a right to either not listen or, but I don't have a right to kill you for it, no matter
Well,
who you are.
and I believe so. America is the only country that doesn't have hate speech laws. Like we do not have a story that says it's not okay for you to spew vitriol and hate. We now also don't have a story that says it's not okay for you to spew lies. And we're doing a lot of it. We're really doing a
Yeah.
lot of it. The message that I'm taking away from that murder is the same message that I'm taking away from everything that's going on right now. That poor woman on the subway the day before,
Right.
right? It's like, she couldn't just freaking take a subway ride. She paid for that subway ticket with her life. It's disgusting what's going on, but
Right.
it's us against them. And we create this division, and that division sows chaos. And that is what has to change.
And
So,
like you said, they specifically muddy the waters that whether you knew who these people were or not, even when you go to research, I feel it's all distorted. And it's so hard to sift through
yeah,
the truth
yeah,
because they can take anybody and make them look terrible or take their words out of context. It doesn't matter who it is.
yeah.
They can do that to anyone. So it's so hard to really figure out like maybe what he was saying was all distorted. Who knows? Like you just don't know anymore with any of this stuff. Same with that girl, or I think they said stuff about the guy who did that. Like who knows anymore? Who knows what's fake and what's real? It's really crazy times, like you just said. And when I said do your own research, sometimes it's not as easy as it sounds, but the point is to do it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And what I like about AI is that it tries to be unbiased. What I discovered back when I was doing my Goddess of Crypto
Mm-hmm.
podcast, which ran for a couple of seasons, I would interview only women in the crypto and Web3 space, and I interviewed a woman one time who this was like AI was much more nascent. This is like 2 years ago,
Okay.
and we've really like we've come a
It's
long way,
crazy.
baby. Yeah. But this woman told me, she said, the problem is that there's so much misogynistic information out there, and there's such a bias against women
Right.
that AI is so biased against women automatically because the breadth of information out there has been written by men with the agenda to marginalize women. And that had never occurred to me. Now,
Makes
they're
sense.
they're trying to build models that like mitigate against that, but
Mhm.
it's kind of hard.
Do you
So
think that women using AI, because essentially we can train the AI as well, they've kind of at least temporarily put it in somewhat of the public realm. And I know there's a lot of issues going on with some of them right now. Do you think that women using AI can help counteract that?
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, so much of what I share, not that we're talking about very much of it, but so much of what I share is mindset. And
Right.
to me, a lot of it like women come along and they say to me, like, I don't know, like, I don't, I was standing behind the door when they handed out the information about money, but they say the same thing about technology. And I'm like, wait,
Hmm.
when it comes to crypto, and when it comes to AI, like we're inventing it as we go. No one has more education than you. Now, that's not true exactly. Like a tiny
Yes.
percentage of people, that people like me who like suck it up like we're sponges, we probably have more information than like the layperson because we're interested in that or we're early adopters or whatever. But you can get so much of that information yourself. We have the University of YouTube and the University of Real Life right now, and
All right.
everything is like available online. So you can educate yourself so much faster.
And
And
it
if you,
and it kind of goes to your point of what you're offering people. People don't want to pay for information anymore because it's free. It's out there everywhere. And like
yeah,
you said in the beginning, what people do want to pay for is transformation. And
no question.
what you're offering, because that's what's like, well, I have all the information, but I think it falls short where how do you apply all this information? And I think this sort of rabbit hole we went down with the whole history of women, I think it does play a really important role
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
lets you know that this wasn't, this isn't our natural state.
That's
This
a
was
beautiful way of
calculatedly
putting it.
done to put it, but our natural state is not to be anything less than a man. And I don't want to put men down either, of course. I mean, we ultimately we are equal and we just have different strengths.
Yeah.
For whatever reason of biology and chemistry and the way that women are made and the way that men are made, men just tend to be better at different things and women tend to be better at different things. And I find a lot of those things are more physical than anything else. But when it comes to this, our brains, our creativity, that the thinking part of our biology, I think we're on an equal and level playing field.
Yeah. I have a friend who's like 6'5". He's just this man mountain thing. Like I go to give him a hug and I'm like, there's this chest here. You're like, hi. But I have more emotional intelligence than he does. I can just tell.
Right.
So it just, we all have our, and that's not, I'm generalizing, but I'm just talking about a
Of
particular
course.
person versus a
Yeah.
particular person. But women do have more natural gifts in some areas that
Yeah.
they like. I talk to many more women than I do men who are spiritually in touch with their clairvoyance, the other clairs. You have a clair for
Mhm.
every one of your senses. And so, their clairsentience, their clairaudience, women tend to be more in touch with that than men are.
Yeah. Like you said, the
Um,
emotional intelligence is, in generalizing, is definitely stronger with women.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you talked about the modern versus the ancient. Okay, so
Right.
when could women have their own bank accounts, mortgages, and credit cards in their own name? In America, it was 1974.
Mhm.
Okay, and then I think 1976 or something in Canada and in England. And thank you, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for that. Another wonderful woman. That's crazy. But you tell a man that, like you try that, you go up to a man of any age and you say women couldn't, especially a younger man, but you say women couldn't have access to their own credit cards, mortgages, or bank accounts until 1974. And you just get this deer in the headlights stare, like this does not compute. They
No.
do not understand. And that legacy of money belongs to me isn't there for almost any woman. I know women who have like inherited a lot of money, but they also inherited rejecting that money and they're,
Mhm.
walking around broke even though they're heiresses. I know women who are, I'll make all the money in the world, but I will spend it as fast as I can. Let me get rid of it as fast as I can because the dangers for women. So, okay, two things. If you're a past life person, then this is from past lives. If you're not a past life person, it's from your ancestors. Either way, it trickled down into
Yeah.
this legacy stuff that tells us it isn't safe to have a birthright of wealth. And by the way, for people of color, like really not safe. Really, really not safe in America to be a person of color. If you're a person of color and you're a woman, double whammy, right? But it's basically was only safe for white men to have money. And now how do we see that? Well, 94% of, or sorry, 97% of all venture capital is still given to men, right? I tell women founders all the time, if you want to get VC money, the smartest thing you can do is hire a white guy. That's disgusting, but I will tell a woman that because I want her to know what she's up against.
Right.
But, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, I don't believe that the men are gatekeeping against the women anymore. I think the
Yeah.
women have been told this story for so long.
It's on a loop for most of
And
us.
what did you say earlier? We're wired differently, right?
Mhm.
So a guy is raised, walk forward in a straight line towards your goal. Do not allow anything to come between you and your goal. Your job is to get there as quickly as possible. That is a leader, son, right? Women are told there's no I in team. You're here for your family. Like,
Mhm.
this is like you're the nurturer. So this is a woman, if she's walking in a direct path to her goal, she hears the guy coming behind her. He's moving quickly, obviously. And the woman is going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Please go ahead and pass since you're going
Yeah.
at a different pace than I
Oh, and can I
am.
get you coffee along the
Right, on
way?
the way, right, like, or a drink or whatever. So she's just being polite, she's being nice, she's being friendly, and she's being how she was raised. And the guy is just doing his thing. Now it turned out there's only one goal, and she didn't get there, and because he got there first. But that happens all the time. Is he a jerk for getting in front of her? No, it's like he understands that's his birthright. And basically that's kind of how he's wired too. So I
Yeah.
think it's now up to women to go, like, that's not necessary any longer. I don't
Mhm.
have to be so nice that I'm going to stop and give him coffee on the way. Right.
Yeah. It's
I
almost
have,
like they've been trained their way, and they're just the same thing we just said, how it's wired in us. They're acting the way it's wired in them, and we're acting the way that it's wired in us. And it kind of comes almost full circle to your mindset. So
yes, yes, yeah.
this is really where this is where it sits.
Yeah. So my new book is the Passive Income Power Plan, 108 Ways to Make Money While You Sleep. It's a mindset shift first, because it's a
Mhm.
mindset shift from I have to work hard for my money, which most entrepreneurs feel. With the women, it's like I have to be superwoman. It's like you want to raise your kids, you want to stay home and raise your kids, you can still do it making a bunch of money. You just have to do it passively instead of actively, right? Active hours,
Right.
we've only got a certain amount of hours in our day. I heard somebody really smart say last weekend, I was speaking at a wealth summit, and one of the other speakers said, why are we trading this renewable resource money for this non-renewable resource time? And I was like, because what mother doesn't want to see every single moment of her child's development, right? And what
Right.
father wouldn't like
I
to?
worked from home. I wouldn't have traded it for anything in the world.
But you don't have to trade it for cash, because you can create passive income streams. So that
Right.
was one
Right.
of the main reasons that I wrote the book. The other one was to get people off of their buns and stop saying, this is for other people, this isn't for me. Because there's an actual path in the
Mm.
book for getting off your butt and starting to create passive income streams. And I think that for a lot of women, we have a lot of loops about what we can do for work. The book actually opens with an anecdote about a client. I had a male client that I had years ago who told me he cried every single day going to and from work for 20
Oh,
years because he thought he had to stay in that stuck ass job to support his family. And it was just terrible. I'm like, my heart just went out to him. We did healing work around it so he wouldn't like carry that with him going forward, of course. But
well, I think to your point, it is universal. I don't think it depends whether you're a man or a woman. I think even most men are taught you have to work hard. You won't get
yeah,
where you want to go unless you work hard. And even I always say, like, yeah, I did all those things and I'm still not where I want to be. So it's clearly not working. They're selling you a lie.
I couldn't agree with you more. And the example that I give is more extreme. You have to work hard for your money. Okay. Over here, we have member of Congress playing golf, working like, except for the Congress recesses, right? Making whatever, $250,000 a year. Over here, we have welfare mom working 3 jobs. Who's working harder, right?
Right.
Who's getting paid more? Who's working harder? So I agree with you. It is the lie, like the
Oh,
lie.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is a big lie.
Yeah. Yep. So I love the idea of a passive income stream allowing us the time freedom. Because why do we want money? We don't want money for money's sake. We want
No.
money. So we were talking about this earlier so that we can have those other freedoms. Again, on the Goddess of Crypto podcast, one of the best guests I ever interviewed was this woman who had little kids at home and who had a big crypto community. And she said, now I'm going to speak crypto language here. It's going to sound like I'm talking rap or something. The guys were all saying when Lambo. Now, when is spelled WEN, and it means when am I going to get my, all right? But when Lambo, when am I going to get my Lamborghini? And the women were saying, when college education, when family vacation. And because she had a fully female crypto community. And I was like, yes, like this is so empowering to understand women don't want wealth
No.
so they can get more stuff.
Mhm.
Women want wealth so they can help, thank you to the Dalai Lama, save the world.
Yeah, because they want the time, they want the freedom, they want the relaxation. It's like the pile of clothes would be nice, but is that my ultimate goal? Like, no. And I think they want safety and security too, because with that wealth, to us, I think does become safety and security, especially for women.
Yeah, no question. No question. I I think that for all women, we all want, no matter what our politics are, we
Mhm.
all want the same thing, which is for our
I agree.
families to be safe, and we want to, fund our villages. And
100% agree. I think that's true across men and women. I don't care which side of the fence that you're on. We all
there's a lot
deep
of
down
the,
want the same things. You know, we want
but
health and good jobs and whatever, or wealth, I should say.
I agree with all that. But I will point out that a man wrote the bumper sticker, "He who dies with the most toys wins." So there is some kind of energetic, like,
Right.
difference.
But I think
Yeah.
even if you stripped all that out, most people just want the basic same thing. But yeah,
I agree.
it's like that's all such ego driven.
Yeah.
Cares? What does it get you in the end? In a box in the ground with worms, right?
Yeah. Coming full circle. So you go on the ground and the worms eat you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can't take that stuff with you. And do you take the win with you? Does the win get you higher on your spiritual soul journey than the
No,
person who didn't? I don't think so.
but it can help you because you learn that that part was empty, and so maybe the next
Right.
time around you're going to look for, more of that
Yes.
spiritual fulfillment. Yeah.
A win
So
not at the cost of other people. I always say that, it's like I want to win, but not at the cost to somebody else, like a detrimental cost. Not everyone.
right,
Obviously, I'm
right.
not in the genre of everybody wins because it's just not reality. Because
But everybody's here to learn their own lessons,
yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
I think if you can just come at it from a stamp. So I'm I've gotten really picky over the last few years about words. Like,
Mm,
words create energy, and when we,
definitely do.
and thoughts become things, right? So when you say, I want to win, but not at the cost of other people, there's an energy of your win costing other people, just inherently, just
True.
with those words.
And it's
So
that subtle programming that's still there, even it just flew out of my mouth.
absolutely.
Because if
So,
you have, then that means somebody else isn't going to. And that's
right.
not true either.
It's not. It's not. In fact,
No.
I like to say, we think we only get one slice of pie, and I ate my pie already. And so now the next piece of pie, if I take it, belonged to somebody else, and I'm taking food out of their mouths. Everybody gets their own pie, and it's so big you can't eat the whole pie in your lifetime. So that's one thing.
And
But
that takes
here,
a huge mindset shift to wrap your head around.
yes, I have a program for that called Wealth Elevation, actually, that's online. That's also for that very purpose of helping women to shift out of what's not possible and into what's possible by doing that subtle reprogramming. I like to say that simple and easy are not the same thing. Our big, beautiful brains tend to dismiss the simple thing because we say, oh, that's too easy. And that is absolutely not true. But Michelle, a coaching moment for you. Here's your reframe. Just say, I want it to be a win-win, because there's
I want
no
it to be a
negative in
win-win.
that energy, right? Now we
Ooh,
don't have the energy of the person getting beaten down or losing because we won. We
right.
just say we want it to be a win-win. So
I
yeah,
love that. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's amazing how we slip into this programming. And I said to a friend the other day, I'm like, who put this default programming in there? I mean, it must go so far back. It's crazy. And like you said, it is from those lineages, that whole time frame and generational past lives. And it's like we don't start with a clean slate every life. And even if, like you said, even if we don't believe in the past lives, we still got the generational thing coming in. So we
Right.
really don't start here with as clean of a slate as I think we'd like to believe.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. But the beautiful thing is Dr. Joe Dispenza and other quantum physicists have absolutely proven without a shadow of a doubt that the what has been programmed can be deprogrammed.
100%.
And it is this, I know that Heart Math, the company, has done a
Mhm.
lot of work with data, with biofeedback data. So they have determined through like thousands of people now that the combination of your thoughts with your positive heart energy, feeling love at the same time that you think those thoughts,
Mhm.
can even, as one of Dispenza's early experiments proved, it can even unravel DNA. Like, that's insane. You shouldn't be
I
able to do that.
absolutely agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it all comes down to one of my leveraged products is doing just that. It's light frequency, and just it's amazing just what light and frequency alone can do. And that's what we're doing, because we are, as you said, we're energy. So we want to vibe at these high vibrations, and it's not just a cute saying. It actually is. When you're vibing at those low vibrations, that's what you're going to bring in, and that's what you're going to attract. And you can change your DNA, you can change your body.
I
So it's
have a
incredible.
set of Da Vinci. Um, I have these Da Vinci tools, but these are my two new ones, and
Oh, tuning forks.
they're specifically for tuning to the different resonances of the body. Like, yeah, it turns out that there's a different vibration for every chakra. That there's a like a God vibration, like a
Mm,
spirit vibration. So, people use ayahuasca, they use other drugs. DMT is called the spirit molecule,
mhm.
Bufa is the God molecule. You can use the drugs and all for, spiritual awakening, but you can also use tools like this, like
Yeah.
the tuning forks.
And you have to
So,
be ready if you're using those drugs. Some people really aren't ready for that kind of stuff. But yeah,
yeah.
I love it. I love all of it.
Me too. Me too. And I can't believe, like, we've been talking for over an hour already. And I just, like, I mean, we could talk about this forever. Like, it's
Oh my
obvious that
gosh.
you really know a lot about this information, that you care so much. I'm very grateful that you do this podcast, because I think that it really, people need to be hearing this. People need to be hearing these messages of shift, and the idea that wealth belongs to women is something that just cannot be said often enough. And that concept is really, to me, that's like that energetic concept is encoded into the title of your podcast, and I think that's so powerful. So thank you for the work that
Oh,
you're
well,
doing in the world.
thank you. And I do love it. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. And, I do hope I'm reaching people, because we need to shift. We could be going down a dark path that we really don't have to. Um, yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. And we do
And
that by rippling, it's that whole ripple effect.
yeah,
So
I
somebody
think.
needs to hear exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. And I think we are at a crossroads right now. Like, Spirit used to say to me, this can go easy or this can go hard. But it also said to me, anybody who's anybody is here right now. And it meant
Mhm.
embodied on the planet. So I think that there's no accident. Like, if you're listening to this and
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, this is my wake up call. Yeah, you're right. It is. Like, we're all being given that same wake up call at the same time, because the work is so important, and the work is for the world to be saved by the Western woman.
100% agree. So now that we kind of have come full circle and we've talked about the mindset, what one tip can you give women today to empower them to sort of at least start to crack open the mold. We're all in different places. Some of us have been stuck for a really long time, and others, they just kind of get it right away. So what would you say to women that are either just beginning or maybe just starting to crack open?
Yeah, I would say start small. A question that I ask, I do what I call bumper sticker coaching. If it's short enough to fit on a bumper sticker, you're going to remember it in an emergency, right? I don't want like, what's my 3 steps? Like if when things go crazy, you're not going to remember even step one. So,
Right.
so one of my bumper sticker coaching pieces is what is my next smallest step?
Mm.
And I think that's such a great question to ask. I use it in the passive income power plan, but I also use it just in general whenever I'm coaching. What is my next small step? Like you need to know your goal. What's your goal? What's your desire? What's the thing that you want? But they say that if an airplane is flying from like, New York to New York from Miami, and it doesn't like course correct every 30 seconds, it's going to end up in Buffalo, right? So that's bad, right? You wouldn't do that if you're an airplane, but we think we have to know every step of the way in order to get started, and we just don't. So part of the power plan in the book is to create that idea of like, what's my first passive income stream? I have no idea how to do this. Fine, whatever, pick it, and then ask, what is my first smallest step? Like you might get online and, so there are things that do a little bit of that research we were talking about that's free to everybody. So there are things that you can do to get yourself educated before you get yourself educated. And the real key is just to take action. Like if you're hearing this, whatever idea that you have right now, because I'm asking you to, is coming to mind, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, there was that thing that I thought in the shower, or oh, there's that idea that I've like, it's been burning a hole in my head for 10 years, somewhere between there. Whatever that thing is, there's a spiritual law, the law of reciprocity, and part of it says that which we seek is also seeking us.
Mm.
And I think that's just so helpful because it's like, oh, if I had that idea, somebody freaking needs the thing that I'm going to create with my idea.
Yes.
So what is your next smallest step to get there? That's my best advice.
I love that. And if the idea is in the field, then there's already a solution in the field as well. And if you don't take it, it's in the field.
Somebody else will. Yes.
Will. Yeah. And
Yes.
It is trust too. I think trust is the hardest part, has been the hardest part for me. Just trust that it's going to unfold the way it should be, even when it's not how we think it's going to look. And I find that to be one of the hardest parts for me, because we kind of want to control everything. And like you said, we want to know, well, what's A, B, C, D, E, F, and like double G, like
we totally do. Okay. So let me just give you, I know we have to wrap this up, but let me just give you a moment from quantum physics that dovetails perfectly with what you're saying. So we do think I have to go from A to B to C to double G or whatever. But the thing is, a particle, which is the smallest unit of matter in quantum physics, does not act linearly. The particle says, I'm going to go from A to D. And sometimes it goes, I'm going to go from A to J. And the scientist is like, wait a minute, there is no J. Well, there wasn't until the particle jumped from A to J. But that's the point. Like, we're part of living matter. The particle is part of living matter. One of the axioms of like quantum physics and spirituality is the idea that as above, so below, as within, so without. In other words, the microcosm and the macrocosm are the same thing.
Yeah.
And so if it works for the particle, it works for you. So you have that example from quantum physics of A to D, skip a bunch of steps, or A to J, go all the way over here and like hit a home run. We think we have to climb the corporate ladder. No, we don't. That's a lie. Another lie we've been told. So act like the particle, because one of my favorite clients, I used to coach like hundreds of her clients. And she said to me once, she said, I love the fact that for you, everything is possible. And
Mm.
in quantum physics, everything, literally, it's called the field of possibilities, like everything is possible. So it may be highly, 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 highly improbable that you will win the lottery or the job or the, movie contract or whatever, but it is not impossible. And the first thing that we do to get in our way is we say, I can't have that. And the universe goes, okay, because
Or
the
why
universe is,
try? Why even bother?
the universe has no sense of humor and is completely literal. So if you're like, I can't have that, you have just created it to not be possible. Up until that moment, it was possible. The good news is you can uncreate. You can say, wait, that is possible for me. And that's the chink in the armor that allows God, spirit, the universe to get
The
in.
transformation.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Well, that's amazing. Is there anything else that you wanted to share? We know you had talked about your new book. We're going to have links for your book and everything else where people can get in touch with you, how people can work with you. Is there anything else that we want to add before we wrap this up?
I want to say one thing that I think is so important. We have this weird thing in our bodies. Our bodies are miswired regarding fear.
Mm,
We think that scary guy in dark alley fear is exactly the same of fear of the unknown.
hmm
But I call fear of the unknown, which feel these two things feel the same in our bodies, but fear of the unknown is raise your sword and run into battle fear. So when you hear something like this talk and it scares the Christmas out of you because you might step outside of your comfort zone and do something that you've never done before, that's good. Like fear, when you learn this, the difference between scary guy in dark alley fear and raise your sword and run into battle fear, you are learning the difference between staying stuck for the rest of your life and recognizing, oh, that fear means there's something bigger here for me. Let me go ahead and do this. And I think that is something that for women, because we've been taught to be so afraid of society around us, and we could be murdered on the subway on any random Tuesday, we don't discern between that fear. We just stay afraid all the time. And so I want to invite you to remember that those are different kinds of fear. We still want you to be discerning about the scary guy in the dark alley, but
Right.
when it comes to your ideas, when it comes to your own power,
And your
raise your
dreams.
sword and your dreams and run into battle. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think some of us are afraid about what's on. We're afraid that we can have it all. But like
Oh,
you
yeah.
just said, if you run into it straight forward, you're going to fall on a cloud.
Well, that's why I coach, because a lot of times we really need to be helped along. We need our hands held as we're
Right.
getting there. But yes, you're absolutely right about everything you've said. This has been just such a great conversation. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Oh, thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and I definitely welcome you to come back. There are so many other topics that we could dive into. It's
No kidding.
crazy.
All
But
the rabbit holes.
I so appreciate your time that you have spent with me today, and I hope everybody else has too. Everything will be in the description, and all of your links will not only be there, but on my website, thewealthwithin.us. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And until next time, I am Michelle Blaze, and thank you again, Halle. It has truly been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Michelle. All right, blessings.
Right now, you can begin aging gracefully, full of energy, vitality, and overall wellness. But as time goes by, our bodies can start to show signs of aging. Until now, introducing LifeWave X39, the world's first product that activates our own cells. This breakthrough in regenerative science helps restore our bodies to a healthier, more youthful state. X39 uses patented phototherapy to elevate a copper peptide that signals cellular activation. Think of it as your internal repair system, generating younger, healthier cells that can rejuvenate your tissues and organs. Just one X39 patch applied daily is all it takes. Safe, non-invasive, and backed by clinical studies, this is your chance to regain control over your vitality. Don't miss out on the future of anti-aging. Experience the power of X39 today. Visit patchedlight.com and start living younger now.